So I wanted to make a little video talking about just the funny thing that's going on with All Engines Go, because if you haven't heard the news, All Engines Go got canceled. It's been confirmed by multiple outlets, and apparently Mattel in a press release stated that All Engines Go is ending at 4 seasons, which is kind of crazy. I mean, they made a lot of episodes. They made like well enough to be syndicated on multiple networks, and you know it's all over Netflix. But yeah, All Engines Go is over. The reason mainly being that Nelvana, the animation studio that makes All Engines Go, their parent company Chorus is in really horrible debt. I believe last I checked, it was something like $80 million worth of debt, and I believe it's the amount that's totaled from across multiple companies they owe it to. And I believe there's also some federal debt involved, which is pretty crazy. Nelvana is this very storied company. They've done a lot of animation, done a lot of different shows over the years. They've been around a long time. So it's kind of crazy to see that they're really suffering from their parent company, because anyone under a Chorus-owned company that isn't essential is at risk to get fired if they haven't already. But what this means is that now Mattel is free to make a new Thomas the Tank Engine series, or even, dare I say, return to the original. I don't know what the status of Jam Filled or Arc is. I feel like I remember Jam Filled shut down like a year or two ago. I could be wrong, but regardless of whether or not a new show is coming, All Engines Go getting canceled could be good or bad news for the brand, and I think I might make a legitimate scripted video talking about the very real possibility of Thomas just being over as a brand. And I mean, Mattel hasn't really known what to do with Thomas for a long time. They've tried to make it into so many things it's not even seemed to really reach the heights that Brit & Co. or even Hit Entertainment managed to have it at. Because I mean, Thomas under Hit, I remember just there was so much stuff readily available in terms of merchandise and DVDs. And now when I go into stores, like the Thomas section at a store is just so pitiful and sad. That new Thomas merchandise has been coming out. People everywhere seem to keep finding it. My Walmart still has all this AEG stuff that they're desperately trying to get rid of. I don't think they're going to be stocking anything new until they get rid of it. I think it's a good time to reflect now that All Engines Go is ending, because I believe they're still airing. I don't know if they've started airing season 4 or if they're finishing it up. I think it's a good time to reflect and maybe talk about how harsh of a reaction everybody had to All Engines Go. Looking back, and I was somebody who also fueled the fire and made memes and talked about All Engines Go like it murdered my family, but it was really just a kid's show. It really didn't do anything to deserve the hatred it got. Like, obviously Thomas is such a beloved brand by everybody in the community, and a lot of people, you know, who've grown up now and aren't in the community. Like, I remember when All Engines Go's promo images came out, there were a bunch of non-Thomas people who were like, ew, this is so gross, which, you know, those people do that for everything from their childhood. I remember, like, you know, there were tweets about when Bob the Builder got redesigned, and, you know, tweets with like 100,000 likes, like well more than the amount of people that are actually in that community who were, yes, there's a Bob the Builder community, by the way, but there's so many people who were like, oh my gosh, it's so ugly, looks nothing like when I was a kid, all these shows are from my childhood are being ruined. You know, it's just normie tweets to make, and then they go back to tweeting about whatever else they were talking about. You know, that happened with Thomas, so there was such a big outcry, and then it just, when, you know, the show came out, nobody watched it who was, you know, older than age 10, or, you know, other than like the morbidly curious Thomas fans. I did not seek out All Engines Go when it came out. I just had the thought of like, well, that looks bad, it looks like it's not for me. But, you know, I'll talk about how disappointing it is that it came out, but I was busy making Thomas's Friends. And man, that's how long ago it was. Like, the first Thomas's Friends episode came out pretty shortly after that first promo image was revealed of Thomas in that new art style. And I remember when like the trailer came out, I was in the midst of working on a video, and I saw Lucky Tug's video talking about the little promo trailer. I will say, I think YouTubers like him and some of the other big ones in the community are definitely a big part of how dramatic the response was. In those videos, if you listen to it, it's like you think it's a bigger deal than it actually is, because at the end of the day, you know, it's just a reboot. It happens to everything, unfortunately. I wish it was better, and I am one of the many people who will always be in firm support of good storytelling Thomas for kids. That it was actually trying to do something and say something and inspire kids and showing them different forms of artistic medium. And not to say that nowhere in the 2,000 episodes of All Engines Go they made in the last couple of years that there was nothing like that, but I'm guessing, I can pretty firmly guess that it's not going to be as prevalent as it was in the old Britt and David seasons of Thomas. Even with all of that, even with all my opinions, I chose not to make a video trashing it, destroying All Engines Go with facts and logic. I just moved on. I went back and watched the old show, because it didn't take away the old show. The old show was already gone. And the quote-unquote old show, because I count all of original Thomas and Friends, All Engines Go is its own beast. It was never intended to be a follow-up season. The show at the time was Big World Big Adventures before that, so I stopped watching after season 22 because it was so bad. And it was like, man, this isn't for me anymore, this is for a younger audience. And then All Engines Go was for a way younger audience. I already questioned myself for watching a show for 8-year-olds, but now you're making it a show for 4-year-olds, and I was like, not to discredit the people who watch All Engines Go and are older than 4, because there is an All Engines Go fandom, which I'm sorry, but I don't understand. I don't understand the people who hate watched it. I don't understand the people who watched it and liked it, because it's like, it's fine, but it's definitely not for me. I think I caught 1 or 2 episodes of All Engines Go on TV, like on Nick Jr. or whatever it was airing on, and I thought it was fine. It was like, I was surprised at how many of the characters were actually involved in it. And they did pull in some characters. I mean, you have all those character designs, I think you're just gonna pluck them and use them, and the animation didn't look particularly difficult to create. It looked, I don't know a ton of animation terms, but it kind of just looked like puppet rigging almost. Like it kind of, this is gonna sound really mean, but it looks like you're just kind of dragging the character designs across the screen and just puppeting them. If it was more intense than that, if All Engines Go making all those episodes was a real crunch, hopefully those animators got treated well and were appreciated by the higher ups. They probably weren't. That's why so many of them are getting fired, because unfortunately the industry sucks. But when I watched it, I saw nothing more than like, oh, this is now a Paw Patrol, but it has a Thomas skin over it, so I appreciate it a little more than I would an episode of Paw Patrol. And so it didn't have anything that I wanted from Thomas anymore, and neither did Big World Big Adventures, so I just, I watched an episode or 2 in passing and then moved on. As time went on, I felt less of the desire to really talk about the show, and there's so many people, I remember so many infights, even like a year ago, between people who just hate All Engines Go. They hate it with every fiber of their being. They would curse its name in the streets, and then the people who really liked it, or the people who even tolerated it. And I just remember being really confused. I thought it was a whole lot of fuss about nothing from both sides. Like at the end of the day, people can like or hate whatever they want, but getting into a huge fight over it never really made sense to me. I will gladly debate stuff about the Goofy Train show, because I find it interesting. But there is a point where it gets so vicious, so needlessly vicious, that I don't care anymore. And so I pretty well stayed clear of All Engines Go. I think it's so funny looking back, because if it was any other show, if it was some nondescript train show that wasn't Thomas, nobody would have batted an eye. It would have gotten 250 episodes, and it would have been some faded memory on Nick Jr., and no one would have cared. But because it was based off of something that had a previous incarnation, this whole well of people who are all in this Thomas fandom, myself included, had a bunch of thoughts and opinions on it, and a bunch of people even went and watched through all of it. And I'm very curious, for anyone in the comments, if you've watched all of All Engines Go, what did you think? Because man, that's a commitment. Definitely don't think it was fair how it got treated. I think if it was any other show, it would have just gone right under the rug. And I wonder the people who worked on that show and wrote and animated it, if they had any idea what the online reaction was to it, or if they just, you know, they were doing their job. They were clocking in and clocking out, making their cartoon show. I'm hoping that Nelvana can either get purchased, and if not, that everybody who works there can get other jobs in the industry. This is a very all over the place video, just kind of reminiscing a little bit on the early moments of All Engines Go reveal, and just some random jumbled thoughts that didn't really have enough meat to make it into a fully edited video. There is a fully edited video essay coming out soon on Thomas and the Magic Railroad, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, I'm gonna play more Need for Speed. Y'all have a good day.